to Talkumentary. I can't do it. That's not quite right. Welcome, strangers, to I can't do an accent. I'm just going to end up with something weird. Welcome, strangers, to Talkumentary, a show where we watch documentaries and then get together and talk about them.
Get on the floor. Learn it and learn it well. You have space to do all that you intend to. But as far as y'all, please realize that we all, at one time or another, have lusted to walk a ballroom floor. So give the patron and the contestants, a round of applause for nerve. Because with y'all motherfuckers, it do take nerve, believe me. We're not going to be shady, just fierce. Vogue. Vogue. You know what she want. Walk.
Vogue.
I was like, Vogue.
Vogue.
That sounds so aggressive. Vogue.
Welcome, everyone, to episode number 14 of Talkumentary Queens.
Don't be shady, be a lady.
Work.
Now, introducing the statement, the future legend, Katy VP Vogue.
Hey, Vogue.
Give her some walking room.
What's up? Here I go. Work it. Shantae, you stay.
Everyone waiting in the wings, we know you want to see. Good golly, Miss Molly.
Sachet work.
Legend.
Slay queen.
And now, sweetheart, with the cigarette, you're giving me chills. All the way from the other side of the state, we are joined by the mother of House Butterfly.
Love
What do I
that.
do, Vogue?
Katy. Katy,
Am I just
I don't
voguing?
know. Yeah, that's it. 10s all around you
Yep.
all. I am Jeffy Stranger, CoCo O'Hern. I am CoCo O'Hern,
Yes,
the
greatest
father,
drag name.
the father of the House of Stranger. I am your MC for tonight's Talkumentary Ball. Happy Pride Month, my friends.
Pride all around.
Pride Month starts today. If you haven't figured it out yet, for Pride Month, we have mopped some high heel pumps, chosen our walking categories, prepped all the appropriate shade, and have gotten a read on the competition. Did I do all right?
You did
did
awesome.
so good.
For a fierce 78-minute documentary called Paris is Burning.
To us is as close to reality as we're going to get to all of that fame and fortune and stardom and spotlights.
This was released all the way back in the year 1990, but filmed,
Ancient.
ancient.
I think all of us were alive except for good golly, Miss Molly.
Don't talk.
Yeah.
Don't. Stop it.
For another 10 years.
Listen, we don't have to bring it up like that, you guys.
It was filmed all throughout the 80s or the late 80s. This film explores the drag ball culture of the 80s with tons of incredible footage from drag ball competitions mixed with interviews with then prominent members of the scene, with a look into the everyday life of a drag queen. Lots of glitz and glamour, some marginalization, struggle, and pain, which is something we can touch on a little bit, and a mental fortitude and toughness that could only be described as Yas Queen.
Yes.
Directed and
I
produced
just
by...
want to be sound effects today.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ad-libs.
Directed and produced by Jenny Livingston. This film was a Academy Entertainment and Off-White Productions production, distributed. Wow.
Go ahead and take it from the top.
Distributed by
you.
Off-White Productions and Prestige Pictures, streamed on HBO Max. We'll have a link with all that good shit in the show notes. What are our initial reactions to this documentary? Had you guys seen this before we watched it? Katy, let's start with you.
Have I seen this show before?
Had you seen it before I said, hey, would you want to do this for us?
With us?
With us?
No,
Against
I
us?
actually had not seen it.
Yeah.
And neither had my wife. And so, yeah.
That's
You
a
guys
good
watch it
bonding
together?
experience.
Well, parts of it. It was pretty long.
Yeah.
It's kinda long, but-
I'm going to have to disagree because this was a much shorter one than the one we watched last week with the guys, which
Yeah,
was
wasn't that like 3 hours?
damn close
near
to it.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a struggle.
Bryce is over on the couch, like nodding his head, like,
Yeah.
God, it was so long.
Yeah. What'd you think? Initial reactions? Without going too far into all the gritty details, what did you like it?
I'm really glad that it exists
Me
and
too.
has existed for this long, even if I didn't know about it. I'm just like initially is regardless of anything else that happened, just like having some type of visibility that hasn't been destroyed and is still on accessible is pretty cool.
Yeah. Molly, VP, any thoughts before we get into this a little bit further? What was your initial reactions?
I didn't know that this existed. No, we don't have to call it the fact that I'm young again. I get it. We get it. Everything's fine.
We're representing all
right.
here.
But I do have a true passion for RuPaul's Drag Race. I was really excited for it. And I know Katy can definitely attest to her love for it. She's decked out with RuPaul stuff today, which is great. But yeah, I really liked it. It was hard to keep my attention just because there was no I don't know.
Action.
Yeah, I didn't feel like there was
Wasn't
action,
really
but
happening.
it didn't need action.
No.
So
It was telling a story.
It was so good. I was very impressed by it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Also,
I
their
thought it was-
outfits. Oh my God. I could die over the fur coats and the dresses that they had on.
I think I have not seen this either, but in the tradition of Paris is burning is something that RuPaul said in one episode in every season of Drag Race. They would do something called the library is open, and then they would hand out a pair of glasses or sunglasses that were very extravagant, and one at a time they would come up and read each other to filth, and they'd always start it with, "In the tradition of Paris is burning," and so to watch it in that context was pretty amazing. I mean, RuPaul was the first drag queen supermodel to be on a magazine. So to see this before RuPaul was even known,
Right.
He didn't come to New York, I think, until the 90s, RuPaul Charles, to see these people who'd been doing this and talking about it all the way back to the 60s
Yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah. So Paris is Burning won a whole bunch of awards, such as Sundance Film Festival Grand Jury Prize, Berlin International Film Festival Teddy Bear, which is a cool prize, I guess. Audience Award at the Toronto Film Festival, the GLAAD Media Award, Women in Film Crystal Award, Best Documentary Award at the LA, New York, and National Films Critics Circles, whatever.
Sure.
This was also added to the National Film Registry in 2016, which means it is part of our national history and cannot go away now.
That's amazing.
That is wonderful.
Which is pretty cool. Yep. And I think the only other documentary so far that we've watched that is also in that registry is Grey Gardens. So
I watched that
should be?
after this, and
Are
I
we
loved
surprised?
it.
Did you rewatch it?
Oh, yes, I did. Oh, mother
How did you-
darling.
how did you watch that
Dude.
again?
Because when it's in the background, it sounds like they're in your house.
That's worse.
Literally?
That's
What do
worse.
you mean?
That's worse. Yeah.
I would feel paranoid that someone was yelling at me after.
I don't know.
Oh my
It does raise your adrenaline a little bit because you feel like you're on edge because mom's yelling at you.
God. Yeah. Katy,
Anyway.
Katy, i.e. Katy, Katy not Veep. Don't watch that movie. Well,
Okay, it's
Do,
epic
but,
though.
like-
1975, the family of the Kennedys, except they're the Bouviers.
Well,
Jackie Kennedy's family.
I kind of just live in a house where there might or might not be yelling on
Right.
a regular basis since I
Right.
have 3 teenage boys.
Yeah.
So I don't even, I feel
don't
like
need
I
to.
can already understand.
also, if you have
what's
a hard
happening.
time paying attention to things that aren't like super captivating, you're gonna hate it.
Yep.
It's going to just seem like normal life.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's a you either love it or you hate it kind of deal.
There's a lot of
And,
grandma
yeah.
boobs on it too.
Oh my gosh,
There is
yeah,
some grandma
saggy
boobs.
old lady boobs. But then
floppers.
I
So
don't
if
know.
you're into
I just
that-
fell in love with these two characters that were absolutely insane. And then there's like raccoons she's feeding in the. Anyway, this is not what we're doing.
Yep, that's not the doc we're talking about. We've already done that. However, despite winning all these awards and more, as well as receiving exceptionally good reviews upon its release, the film was not nominated for a Best Documentary Feature Academy Award, which started a whole bunch of accusations that the Academy was homophobic and transphobic,
Which we know they are.
which ultimately led to changes in how documentaries are nominated for these awards. So that's good. Paris is Burning is certified fierce on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh my god,
with
that's
Yeah.
the best thing I've ever heard.
with
Fierce.
It's just fresh, but I
like your
hammed it
version
up.
of
Thank
it.
you very much. On Rotten Tomatoes with a 98% tomato meter with 61 reviews and an audience score of 89% with over 2,500 ratings. Let's get into it. Quick warning, if you haven't seen it and you're interested in seeing it, go see it. Because we've seen it and you should see it. And
How many more times can we
we're
say,
going to
"See it"?
spoil you from seeing it Or
He's
you
good.
can just listen to us talk about it. We will stall the ball for you. We'll wait to walk.
Stall the ball.
How much time did you spend
We'll
coming
come-
up with
we'll
these? Because
come
they're
back.
great.
They're so good.
You know,
We could
Did you
just
take
make a
Put it
list
in-
of them.
over the
Please,
gay
more dad
lingo?
jokes and puns.
putting in the work. That's it.
The work. I get it.
Yeah.
Work.
See what?
Work it.
Let's-
WERK.
Work.
That's right.
Katy VP, why don't you tell us why you chose?
Jeff.
You're our dealer for today. Why did you choose Paris is Burning for us
right.
to watch?
For those of you at home, I'm holding up a drag queen coloring book that I bought on Etsy, and it has scenes from RuPaul's Drag Race and RuPaul's Drag Race Untucked. Just wonderful moments. And then I also have a deck of cards that is a card game for Best Drag Queen. And on top, I have Jinx Monsoon for obvious reasons for those of you at home. And they're rated by their charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. And for those of you who don't know, you should be able to put that together. CUNT.
Charisma,
Uniqueness,
nerve, and
talent.
See you next Tuesday.
That's correct. So I picked.
You did it. All
There you go.
right.
Anyway, so I picked this documentary because I have a deep, abiding love for drag queens, and I wasn't able to express it until a friend of mine pointed out that drag is about unapologetically being yourself in the truest form and loving everything about yourself to the point that you are just expressing it in such a huge dramatic way. And there's so much love and joy in drag. It's just all about joy. And there's nothing happier in the world, I think. And so when I first started watching RuPaul and they said, in the tradition of Paris is burning, the library is open, I had to find out what that was. And I decided that Talkumentary was the perfect space for us to enjoy
to dig
that.
a little further. Yep. Perfect. I love it. Had anyone seen this? I think we kind of talked about that a little bit. Nobody's seen it before we did it. Katy, what were some of your predictions when we asked you to watch this? Did you have thoughts on what you thought this might be, and did it hold true to those predictions, or were you kind of off base?
Well, I figured there'd be some gay shit.
So you were right on track.
Since it was
Stop it, I can't
Pride
believe it.
Month. So nailed it.
Katy, breathe.
Are you okay?
Do you need a water?
Just so deadpan. I figured there'd be some gay shit. Oh.
And there was some gay shit, so that's
was.
cool. Yeah.
Oh, shut up.
Anything else you wanted to add?
I don't remember. I didn't think it was going to hit that hard.
Well, it's fair to say you landed that one. Just, yeah. Are you all right, Katy VP?
Yep.
Okay, good. Molly, any surprises for you? Were you pretty spot on?
I mean, I kind of knew what the 80s drag community already kind of looked like just because I'm fascinated with it. But I just loved like the MC or whatever. Like I loved his narration or whatever. Literally on the screen right now is him spinning his hat around and going, opulence, you own everything. And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He means it so much. He's so
yeah.
into it.
Also,
and
if anyone noticed how specific the categories were,
They're very
they were
specific.
so fun. Afterwards, me and my roommate were coming up with
oh yes, please
our
do have
own
some
categories,
Please
and
tell
we were
me.
like the guy who just robbed your house 20 minutes ago, like things like it's just like they were so specific. Like your mom who's recently divorced out on her first date back on the town. Like it's like so specific.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah,
Those
thank
are
you.
Those are good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just off the top, whatever.
They
like,
were so good. Please write more.
oh my god, they're so funny. I'll come up with them by the end of
I
this
love
episode.
it.
Don't hold me to that, please.
More.
So we'll talk about some of our favorite, maybe least favorite details about Paris is Burning. But first, I will attempt to give a quick synopsis of the film. Paris is Burning takes us on a journey into the New York drag ball scene in the late 80s and basically serves as an instructional or informational documentary that not only introduces us to many of the most prominent members of the scene at that time, but also gives us a tutorial on some of the slang, the dances, and ballroom etiquette that would be important for someone who participated to know. More importantly, the film gives us a look into some of the struggles of the LGBTQIA plus community that surrounds this ball scene, more particularly people of color within the community, and just a small taste of the things that they had to deal with at that time. We get testimonies from these characters about how they have dealt with issues such as AIDS, racism, poverty, violence, homo and transphobia, abandonment, rejection from their families, difficulty getting jobs, homelessness, gender reassignment, surgeries, and sadly, even murder, even the murder of their friends. Ultimately, this documentary presents the stories of a subculture that is somehow able to maintain strength, pride, and humor as they attempt to survive in a, quote, rich white world. So clearly the standout moments, or the standout for this documentary is the people, the characters.
100%.
The true stars of this show in many more ways than one. First, many of these children, as they call them, and they seem to be lovingly referred to, they're kind of adopted by a house. Let's give this one to VP. What is a house?
A house is a family within a name. So much like your surname, a house is, like we discussed before we recorded, someone's a drag name. And we found that Mr. Jeff's drag name was CoCo O'Hern. So he would be the House of O'Hern. And if someone wanted to be a part of that house, their surname would also be O'Hern. So it would be
I would be
Penny.
The mother of O'Hern,
You would
right?
be mother of O'Hern. And you would have children named Penny O'Hern and Cutie O'Hern. And part of that house is the pride that comes with it. So each house is known for something, for their fashion, for their voguing, for their shade, for whatever it is that they are most proud of, that they are the very best at. And that was something that was very much present in the documentary.
Yep. They described it as being a group of human beings with a mutual bond, which in this case, the bond being everything from being homosexual or transsexual to being in the ball culture to being racial minority. Some of the houses that are listed in this doc with the people who are the stars of this show. So please correct me if I pronounce any of these wrong. Saint Laurent.
Saint Laurent.
So we met Octavia Saint Laurent, the model who was obsessed with being famous and in magazines. We met the Duprees, who was Paris Dupree, who holds the annual ball that is the namesake for this, which is Paris is Burning. Chanel, Corey. So Dorian Corey was the older. Okay, before I make any mistakes,
I think he identified as a drag queen.
Yeah. So when unless they otherwise specify, most of the time it's okay to refer to them as he when they're out of drag and she when they're in drag. And if you want to play it safe, you can just say they.
Okay.
But if we're talking about specifically in drag and their drag names, she is like most commonly accepted.
Fair enough.
I think the only trans characters we met were Octavia and Amy.
Right.
And Venus.
Yeah. And those ones were
Extravaganza.
specifically like
Right.
identified.
They were
but-
transitioning.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so Dorian Corey, the older gentleman who was putting on makeup in front of a mirror for the majority of the scenes and was kind of had the lower voice and kind of quiet wisdom throughout the whole sort of the
Quiet wisdom's a good way
the
to put
under
it.
the sort of the undertone throughout the film. They mentioned House Field, La Beja, Pepper La Beja is the first queen that we met. Lawang, my personal favorite, Ninja with Willie Ninja.
Also my personal favorite.
The master of voguing.
I'm obsessed with Willie.
Omni, Overness, Pendavis. So we met Kim Pendavis, Freddie Pendavis. They were the two that were kind of sewing and making comments about that at the beginning. Probably the most talked about one was Extravaganza, with Venus Extravaganza being the smaller, light-skinned girl who wanted the sex change, Hector Extravaganza, who brought Venus into the house, and Angie Extravaganza, who was the mother of House Extravaganza. Also Brooke and Carmen, who were the two girls walking on the beach at one point talking about their sex changes. We also mentioned House Adonis, House LeMay. Okay, question for the group. Katy, we're going to start with you. If you were into drag and that, and you could be accepted into any of these houses, which one would you want to be a part of?
I don't think it matters, honestly.
Good answer.
Because they're all amazing.
They
And but I for sure would be the house mother.
Yep.
That would be my role
100%
in
you
it
would.
because that already is kind of my life.
Yeah.
And
At your business. Yeah.
like, and so that's kind of the role that not in the same way, but in something that's a little bit similar, is the role I play every day.
Yeah.
And so
For sure.
You'd start your own house.
You'd be the one that people go to and
in an emergency,
Yep.
for sure.
We need to start
To
a
find
house
family.
name, and Katy can be our mother.
That's
and
right.
We can determine our name by the end of this episode.
Yep.
What about you guys? Did you lean toward any of the houses that you feel like you would have been a good fit into?
I don't think I would be a good fit into the ninja house, but I do aspire to have the voguing skills of Willy Ninja. The little like walk when he's like crouched down.
Yes, that's so hard.
And oh my god, I tried to do
The
it.
little
This
legs.
is so
Oh my
embarrassing,
God.
but I tried to do it after watching that scene because
so
I was like,
inspired by
that
you.
looks hard, but I bet I could do it. I cannot do it. It is very hard to do.
I'm going, my knees hurt already.
Dude, just watching it.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like the coordination. Yeah, I would love to be part of the ninja house. Also, they're iconic.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel worthy of any of these houses.
Yeah.
Just watching it, I was like, there's no way I would be good enough to be in any of these houses. I just want to be a spectator.
Sure.
I want to
Right.
be invited to the ball, and I want to
You would be a
watch.
great MC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
You'd
I
kill
would
that.
enjoy that. And I want to be the one on the side going, oh my God, that was amazing. You were so good. Let's do more. Like you were so good. Oh my God. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. If I had to choose, I'm House Ninja all the
Hell
way.
yeah.
I felt like Willy Ninja was a badass. He kind of took voguing, I guess, to the next level. He's the one that kind of got it put on the map.
Best poker.
And he had his sights setting on going and taking it to Japan and things like that. And he went and did it. And so I just thought he was cool.
Inspiration.
Yep. Standout moments. Katy, VP, let's start with you.
I was most inspired by Venus. Her wishes, her dreams were so humble. They weren't to be on the cover of a magazine. She wanted to be a housewife. She wanted to be at home. She wanted to be a normal, what she described as a normal person, a normal woman. And for someone who is trans, in 1987, that was out of reach. It was unthinkable. And did she get the sex change?
No.
She didn't have the sex change yet.
No, unfortunately, she did say she wanted to, but and we'll get to this a little later. But she did. Her time was cut short.
It was. I do remember that. I just remember her being so soft and just saying, "I just want to be at home with someone," and it was so inspiring just to hear that was almost out of reach for her.
Yeah.
It was so sad.
Yep. Katy, what stood out to you? Is there anything that about the doc specifically that that kind of hit you in a different way?
Yeah, I really liked, especially because of like what's going on right now in the world, that the humanization of the trans community is bringing it down to like a real level. Because right now what we're seeing is a lot of dehumanizing, that's ultimately, going to lead to a place we don't want it to go. So just the fact that like getting on doing this in a very raw way to get the real reactions and people's real like commentary, I guess, on or their experiences, I thought was pretty cool. And then again, also to have that be a thing even like in 1990 is even more astounding.
Yeah.
Because for them to go on this and do this, that is putting such a huge target on their back.
Absolutely.
Like, just that's extremely brave.
In the days where RuPaul's Drag Race isn't popular and, the internet isn't what it is now, and do we have a long way to go? Yeah. But is the acceptance more, is it probably easier to find your community? I'll bet it is.
It's more visible for sure.
And
they're in a safe space when they're in the ballroom.
Yeah,
but as soon as they step outside, they're at risk. And
yeah,
they are targeted.
and that's kind of one of my standouts was that they mentioned that in the ballroom, when they're attending or competing, that was the only time in their life that they could feel 100% right and safe being gay.
And I would have to interject and say, I don't know that they could ever feel safe, but they could feel okay,
Yeah.
you know, or themselves,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Because the fact is that they actually were not safe there.
Right.
They were not safe and no ball was safe and nothing is safe. But they felt like themselves.
I think one of the people did say the word safe, so I didn't mean to interject that at all. But, and like Molly said, I think Molly said it isn't like that once they leave there. I mean, they talked about how, you know, you were doing well if you made it home after the ball and you had all your clothes and you weren't bloodied.
Yeah.
Like, God damn. Like that's
Who you
I mean,
are is not safe.
right. You know, and all of these gay men, gay people, LGBTQIA, in all forms could be under one roof and get as close to being famous as stardom as they believed that they were ever going to be, and just be able to kind of put it all out there in a, whether or not they were physically safe, but they were safe to do that in that room and safe to express themselves in that way. I think, was really cool to see, but also that little bit of like heartbreak that kind of like, it sucks knowing that the struggles that you do go through for just being yourself and wanting to express yourself, or, you know, have these, you know, balls with, without feeling like you're, I guess, being
Put at risk.
going to be hurt, going to put at risk. Molly, how about you?
When they were talking about trans violence, I think that's what stood out to me the most. You know, talking about how all of the drag queens are hustlers in their day-to-day lives, and they have to do what they can to make money. They explained what mopping is, which is just stealing.
I liked
Out of like general stealing is exactly what he
it's
said.
like when you go into a store and you look around and like for whatever. Okay, mopping is stealing.
It's stealing. But yeah, so they talked about like them being hustlers and just they got to do what they got to do to get by. But what is her name?
Venus.
Jeez, I can't remember.
Why did I think of it?
When Venus was talking about how she was with a guy who was like feeling up on her chest, and then as soon as he moved his hand down below and felt like her genitals, he freaked out on her, called her the F slur, said, "You're trying to give me AIDS, you're a homo." Like,
She had to jump out a window.
she had to, she like, it's just absolutely fucking insane.
Right.
So I think the violence part of it stood out to me the most, just because like the drag is fun and it's so easy to in the balls be like, oh my God, they're having such a great time. It's stardom. It's it's flashy. It's showy. Like they're having so much fun. It's all joyful and whatever. But it's like that's the behind the scenes part of it almost, because that is so withdrawn into the queer community of like going to more or less a safe space to put on their real identities and let them be out, but then in the everyday world they're being threatened through every means.
Right. You know, and to speak to that a little bit, or to dive into that piece a little bit more, the stories that were told of what some of the girls went through in their lives with regard to the way their families,
oh God,
you know, shunned them. And, you know, I don't think that, I mean, I can't speak, you know, personally, but I would imagine that probably never is easy or gets easier unless you are in a family that is, you know, very accepting and affirming, and, you know, which in that time, I bet you it was few and far between to be a part of that. You know, I think Pepper LaBeija was talking about how when their mother found out that their son was a woman, she couldn't stand it and completely rejected them. And I think that was probably a common theme. I mean, that's probably one of many stories.
It's still common.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Not to mention the ridicule and hate that they get from the public. I mean, but with all that being said, the most impressive thing to me is that we're watching footage of these guys and girls walking around the streets of New York in the 80s, in the late 80s, with their arms around each other, with their, showing their gayness, so to speak. And there was even some times where they were going back and forth with some of the people on the streets. There was one scene, I think, where I don't remember who it was, but they were kind of razzing each other, and the tenacity, I guess, maybe that's not the right word, but the
being comfortable on
yeah,
the street.
yeah, and just owning it, knowing that you're in danger and that you're,
It was shocking to me too.
Yeah,
that they were out on the street in New York City in the 80s.
I was impressed by that. I mean, maybe New York was a little bit more progressive than like what Nebraska would have been in the 80s.
We can't even have drag queens read a book here.
Right. Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah. The progress is limited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At best.
At best.
For sure. Yeah. So to kind of pull back into the more fun parts of the documentary, I loved learning some of the terminology.
Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun.
Katy, tell me about realness.
Oh, okay. So I made notes on realness. That was actually kind of like sad for me.
I thought so too.
For them, when they said that, I was like, you think they referred to themselves like as real women or real men or not gay? Like that's what their goal was, to look not gay,
right?
And like that just, I don't know, it hit me like a little different. But I bet that's what they have to do. Like, that's a survival skill. Really. And
Absolutely.
So I don't know. That was I don't know. I just didn't.
Yeah.
So in my mind, before watching that scene, when someone would mention realness, to me it would be if I'm born a man and I dress up like a woman, and realness is if you believe or if I look much like a woman, sort of like Octavia Saint Laurent, where born with male genitalia, identifies as a woman, dresses as a woman, and looks very much like a woman. To me, that's what I thought they were going to be referring to as realness, because you quote unquote can pass as the opposite gender than whatever. But I was surprised, like what you were saying, Katy, is that's not really how they described realness in the ball scene. It was looking straight, looking like the gender that you do not identify with, looking like somebody who could pass as a military, person, or, and they mentioned it's like going back into the closet. So I can see what you're saying, like that. I felt some sadness with that too. It's kind of funny watching them, on screen, like walk around like with swagger, trying to, this is what a guy would walk like, a straight man would walk like, but that's just surface level funny. It's not like when you think about.
And then you think about them being dressed like a soldier, and that one scene of him wearing like an American flag as a cape, letting it drop on the ground and standing on top of it. And you're like, oh, okay, I forgot that this isn't just a fun fashion show.
Yeah. Yep. Katy, why don't you, Katy VP, I'm sorry. Will you tell us what shade is, and in turn kind of what reading is? And not reading like what I'm doing with my notes right now, but.
Absolutely, Jeffrey. Shade is something that we hear people talk about today, but I don't think we give proper credit to who it should go to 40 years ago.
It kind of emerged into vernacular, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So shade is like an insult that you give to someone, but instead of being obvious, it's something kind of subverting the obvious insult. Would you ladies agree?
It's like, yeah, it can fall along the lines of like passive aggression more often than not.
It's basically an insult, right? Yeah. I mean, if I'm finding something to insult, and then, if I understood it correctly, the reading side is if you're trying to find a flaw and exploit it, essentially. Molly, this was your favorite, I think. What's voguing?
I don't remember how they describe it exactly.
Do your best.
It's like quick and fast movements with your arms like around your head and chest, and it just makes you look so fun. It's like a style of dancing and posing all wrapped up into one.
And I think that's it. The taking poses that could be on the cover of Vogue and turning it into a dance. But also what was interesting was it kind of took the dance battle piece, you know, the same thing you might see from like break dancers or something, where you there's like a dance off where they would Vogue real close to each other, but they'd make comments like, we're not touching each other, but you're voguing really close. And like, it's sort of like this strange,
the closer
to me,
you
strange.
Vogue, the more of an insult it is. It's like fighting words.
Yep. And then the last one they kind of touched on was, again, mopping, which is when you go into a store and you look for whatever, it's stealing. It is stealing.
General stealing.
Yep. Probably, you know, in one of the saddest moments of the film, it's revealed that one of the stars of this documentary, Venus Extravaganza, had been murdered. She was found strangled and dead under a bed in a sleazy hotel. She had been dead for several days before being found. My heart broke because she seemed like such a sweet person and really wanted normalcy in her life. And it seems like such an awful way to go. After that happened, I kind of paused and I looked up where some of the characters from this movie are now. And unfortunately, most of them have passed away since then. Many at a very young age, and many due to AIDS-related health issues. Willie Ninja, my boy, he died in 2006 of AIDS-related heart failure. Pepper LaBeija died in 2003 at the age of 54 due to diabetes type 2 complications and amputations, leaving her bedridden for the last 10 years of her life. Angie Extravaganza, who was the mother of House Extravaganza, was diagnosed with AIDS in 1991 and subsequently developed Kaposi's sarcoma, which I believe is a type of cancer. She died in 1993 at the age of 23.
Oh my gosh.
Due to AIDS-related liver failure.
She's a baby.
But some speculate that her taking black market hormones played a part in her death because she was taking hormones that were not
regulated.
Yeah.
Cheaper, probably.
Or just have access to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The Quiet Wisdom, Dorian Corey, died in 1993 of AIDS-related complications. And Octavia St. Laurent, who was, she was the one who was going to all the modeling things and was obsessed with all models. She was diagnosed as HIV positive and developed cancer in 2008. In 2009, at the age of 45, the cancer took her life. So that's kind of that was sad because this isn't that old.
Right.
You know, I was kind of hoping to see when I went in to look that up that I was going to see a bunch of these people had gone off to be,
happy and healthy.
happy and successful and all that. I was looking for a happy ending that I'm hoping some of them felt some happiness. But of course I don't know for sure.
They got to be their true selves in the ball, and then they had to face the real world when they left.
What other standout moments? Anything else that this wasn't the longest documentary that we've watched, and there was a lot of footage of just them in the ball doing their thing, so it was fun to watch. But anything else that stood out? Katie, what other things do you have in that little handy dandy notebook you got?
I was making notes. So as like an artist mentality or whatever, I really liked when they were talking about the costumes and the progression of the costumes of where it kind of went from and then where it ended up. So they were talking about like at first it was very like creative. They use anything they could find, like, and like style them themselves. And then by the end it was what you can afford. Yeah. And like that was kind of like sad because that's somebody's designing that, but it's not them. Like they don't get to express themselves creatively in a way that's now accepted as like the highest, like, or the best form.
Right. And they said you wouldn't win.
Right.
You won't win if you don't come with something expensive. And most of the time they would mop, they'd steal them. But you could tell who they said they claimed to be able to tell if you stole it just by how you acted when you were wearing it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's true, but it's fun to,
I mean,
I guess, maybe.
You know, how much of communication is not through words,
That's
you know?
true. Most
I
of
would
it.
be so paranoid about someone ruining my shit if I stole it. I'd be like, I took a lot of time and effort to get this, so don't fucking come near me.
Yeah.
I bought a pair of like Ray-Bans, I think, one time as a like we were on vacation.
Like a little splurge.
Yeah. And
Treat
like that was
yourself.
the
You stole
one.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, treat
And like
yourself.
I swear I had those for like 5 years because I just you know what I mean?
Same.
So I feel
when
like
you have like
it would
shitty
be
pairs of
easy to tell.
sunglasses, you throw them in like a bag, you sit
Yeah.
on them in
Sit
the
on 'em.
passenger seat, like
Right.
you break them, but you're buying nice sunglasses. You're making sure they're in their little case.
Yes.
You're putting them up in the center console thing.
Yes. So I feel like that's how they could tell if it was
True.
if they really bought them or not because
Yep.
they wouldn't let anybody near it. But so that was the one kind of thing that I was thinking about as far as like the fashion styles. And then the only other thing I had, and we kind of like were talking about it earlier, was they had also talked about the different types of families. Like back then is like that the hippies were really accepted as like just whoever was in their families. Also like street gangs, like that was also like that was more acceptable form of a like a family. You know what I mean?
A community. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they said that that the gangs would do street fighting as like their like reward, and they did basically the dance fighting, like they
Right.
had it out on the ballroom floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what a like wonderful, healthy coping mechanism. You know what I mean? Like you guys nailed it on the
Yeah.
like, you know, like you were above everyone.
Yep.
But yet, you know,
But
like,
yet you're being stepped on like you're the lowest of the low.
right. But
Yeah.
again, dehumanization
Yep.
and like all of that. Even, and I wanted to mention this too, because this is an issue, is within the LGBTQIA plus community, trans community is not accepted by all.
Yeah.
And so, and that I think is even more scary is
Fuck
when
yeah, it's
within
scary.
your own, like what,
These are
what
supposed
should
to be your people.
Yeah. I
Like
was like,
within
Yep.
the queer community, like when you're speaking to other people, there's always like an inherent and like internalized sense of transphobia, no matter how people identify.
That's insane.
Which is so sad.
It's
like
scary.
amongst people who are in the queer community, there's always that sense of like, you know, that people are still transphobic, even if they are lesbian, gay, whatever. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good.
yeah, you almost have to be like almost explicitly like inviting
Right.
to that specific like demographic
100%.
because otherwise it's assumed that you're not welcome.
100%.
Is that true?
That-
Wow.
that is 100% true.
I have
which
a-
is why again this is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who is kind of questioning their gender and like moving along from like he, him to they, them to maybe eventually she, her. We don't know. Using all pronouns at this point just because, you know, just trying to figure it out. And the intensity of which they are scared to tell our friends that they know are going to be accepting of it just because of like changing their pronouns or
Yeah.
wanting to go by anything different is insane. Like wanting to put a different spelling on the same exact name. You say it the same way, but just wants to change one letter to something that feels a little bit more feminine to them. And like we have a ton of gay friends. Like we're both within the queer community. We have a ton of queer friends, and even coming out to our like best like lesbian couple friends, like that is who they're the most scared to come out to, just
Right.
because
Wow.
yeah, it's a really weird dichotomy in the queer community
So
between
strange.
people who identify as gay and people who identify as trans.
Yeah,
honestly.
I got I was taught this by some of my younger people that are around me because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Your Gen Z folks.
Yeah, I was like, thanks. But like it's called TERF. And that's a lot of what it's called, like those are TERFs. They are liberal, part of the LGBTQ community or community, but they're anti-trans, and that there is even a word for it. And so that's
I've never heard that.
I have little stickers that say TERF repellent.
I shouldn't say I've
May
never
or may
heard that
not.
because you may have told me that last week. But,
yeah, I was like,
yeah.
but like that type of situation is extremely scary.
It seems so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's confusing.
But it's
I'm
when
honestly
people
a
are
little
racist against a different race. It seems counterintuitive. Like when black people don't like, Hispanic people. It seems counterintuitive.
Because for anybody who doesn't know, TERF is trans exclusionary radical feminist.
you.
Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah. So it's someone who identifies as a radical feminist. It's any of us
If
sitting
you-
in this room.
if you have
but
the
you
word-
exclude
Yeah.
trans people.
If what you identify in part of the acronym
Has the word
exclusionary in it,
Maybe you should
like,
rethink.
Yeah, I don't care for that.
It sounds so stupid. Why would you? I don't. It just
Yeah,
seems
I'm
obvious.
honestly I'm a little confused by it myself.
Yeah,
I think
you'd think that we would have grown past the point of the
Yeah.
queer community wants to accept all within.
Right, especially after you've been excluded and treated
whatever,
poorly.
yeah.
Why would you do that to someone else? But I mean, the same thing with racism, and people are still racist. So
People we want to take the T out
people
of
be
LGBT.
stupid.
someone came in and had
Oh,
a flyer
no.
without it.
without the T.
God.
Yeah, I
do you
may or
even
may
say it
not have
without
told
it?
them to get the fuck out.
As you fucking should. We love that.
How
Small
do you-
business owners rule
How do
the
you
world.
say it without the?
LGBTQIA.
I know. I was like, that's what I was trying to say, and I'm like, I can't even do it.
LGBTQIA. It just see,
remember-
it's just it's missing something.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance,
Yeah, that was like
way back.
it was like a weird high school club of like
2000,
It
yeah.
was trying to
No,
be like
it's still a thing.
inclusionary.
It's still a thing.
Very much so. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter was a big part of the GSA just recently in high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think
Yeah.
they started off with good intentions and then it got kind of outdated, and now I think that
I think
Gen
the
Z
kid
is bringing it back around.
I think the
to-
kids kind of took control of it again, and
They're gonna
I
rename
think
it, maybe.
well maybe, but
Are your daughters Gen Z or Gen Alpha?
fuck if I know.
Oh, okay, for sure. Never mind.
I don't know. They're 18 and 16.
You just know that are you a millennial? Or what
I
are
think
you?
I'm an
He's-
elder millennial.
They're both elder millennials.
elder millennial.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So Paris is burning. Credits roll. How are we feeling?
So sad.
Sad?
So sad.
I think ending on talking about Venus was definitely a bummer, but needed to be said. You know what I mean? But Venus's story is heartbreaking. So
And
it was
common.
definitely, yeah. And that's the thing is that, like, not only is there violence against trans women, gay men, any person who doesn't identify as a cis het person, there's violence against women who are cis.
Yep.
But then also a lot of the gay
For
community.
those listening, cis means cisgender and het means heterosexual. Just because I learned that also.
Oh, good job, Katy. And especially in, the time of the 80s where a lot of these people were doing sex work outside of
Oh, that's right.
they had to do what they had to do.
Right.
They had to
You
get their
had to
money
survive.
somehow.
You
They
didn't
had
have
to
family.
survive.
You didn't have a place to live.
Yeah, and it's that thing of if they came out to their parents or were outed by other people and they were kicked out of their homes at young ages, like there's lots of kids, like 15-year-olds living on the street as gay men. They find their identity and they're like drag queen or into anything, transgenderhood, anything
and-
like that. And then sex work becomes a huge part of that. And so that brings it up another level of a quote unquote high risk lifestyle.
Right.
And so the violence that is encompassing that entire community.
Yeah. Whether you're trans,
Whether
or
you're
not,
gay, whether you're
yeah,
trans, whether
it's
you're a drag queen, whether you're you could be a cis het man who likes to dress up in drag and perform.
Well, that was something that I had written down that I sort of passed over that I was going to ask. Is there such thing as drag in the heterosexual world? I mean, is that a thing?
It's not really, I want to say appropriate. It's not really for the heterosexual community. It was
It's
a
not
place,
as
it was a safe
accepted.
space
Yeah.
for the gay community. But there
Right.
was a cisgender heterosexual male that was the first ever on RuPaul's Drag Race, I want to say 2 seasons ago. It was very controversial. to have someone, but also in that same vein, it's like, do you accept someone because you're exclusionary, or like
Right.
you don't want to be exclusionary?
I think that's kind of my question. Like, if I were to decide that I wanted to be involved in the drags,
Community,
community, I'm accepting. I'm
You
loving,
love it. You appreciate it.
Yeah,
but is it your community?
But is it? Yeah, and I guess
it's hard.
What do you guys think? I mean, Katy, if
Yep.
being the representative in the room from that community, not the drag necessarily, but the from the gay community, like, and there's no wrong answers here. What are your guys' thoughts? Is that something that do
we can't
straight
speak for
people
everyone.
just no for sure?
Yeah,
for
I was
now.
like,
We're
I
just-
feel
only your
like
own
that
opinion.
might go into more of like a performing category.
Yeah.
Is if you like, that's kind of a performance and not like an authentic
identity
dance, or you know what I mean, what you're doing. And so I think it has to be done with the right motivation, the right attitude, the right person.
Yeah.
Like that has to be, it would have to be like highly
Respectful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If that was to happen in a way that was going to be accepted, and maybe still not.
Yeah, and understanding that you're probably going to have
Meet a lot of resistance.
Backlash.
right,
Yeah.
just like I don't know, the whole LGBTQIA community
Exactly.
meeting resistance through the rest of their lives.
So I have a very good friend that is lesbian, and she was the one that told me that they were putting a heterosexual male on RuPaul's Drag Race, and she was extremely upset. But she's also one person. You know,
Right.
she can't speak for the whole community, but she said what she imparted to me was that it was created as a safe space for the LGBTQ community, LGBTQIA plus. But when you have a heterosexual male, cisgender heterosexual male in that community, is it the safe space it was? But when you watch this season, he is an anomaly, this particular person, and all the queens were very accepting and loving and kind. It was a very unique situation.
on an individual basis. I
Yes.
think it's way easier to accept that.
Right.
And the hard part about it is that that space was created for a community that was outcasted.
Right.
So then by bringing in the majority,
Right.
and bringing in,
You are
or
not the oppressed
having someone
category.
step in, it
Right.
feels like impeding onto a safe space that
Absolutely.
it doesn't belong to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, like there's a trans rally tomorrow at the state capitol, and
Are you going?
absolutely, I'm fucking going.
For those listening, this is several weeks ago.
Don't talk about that.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. They don't need to know. I'm sure there's going to be more in Pride
There
Month
should
as
be
well,
more.
So,
Yeah.
but like that kind of space too, knowing that there's people who are cisgender and heterosexual in that space already, like it, because they have to be allies in order to go into those space. It's just you supporting your friends, but not supporting the cause directly because you don't identify specifically with the cause. We're bringing our straight heterosexual, obviously, straight cisgender
straights.
friends, right? Our straights, and like being the minority out of like our larger friend group who identify as some shade of queer, bringing our straight friends, they're supporting us and they're supporting the cause because of us, but they don't actually identify with the community, so it's harder for them to relate to it on a personal level. So just like with a straight cisgendered male walking into and stepping into the drag race community, it was created for a specific group, just like all of the issues right now going on with trans rights and gender affirming care and everything. When we're recording this, it's affecting that very marginalized and
Specific.
oppressed community that our allies
Yeah.
can only go so far with.
I can't help but just and I'm hearing all of it and I understand it. I can't help but wonder about the exclusionary nature of it, though. And I not that I think that it would be necessarily wrong to exclude, but I'm not sure what to compare that to. But well, I guess it's kind of like the gay community, not including the trans community. Like, anyway, we don't need to go any further into that. Any unanswered questions? Anything that we wanted them to cover that they didn't?
I just always want to hear more of their stories.
100%.
Like it always just leaves you wanting to know more about
There's
it.
So many
And-
empty.
Right. And like, and the sad part is that there are a million more of those stories and probably worse. And then that's happening like today.
Yeah.
Like today in I know for sure because I just had a conversation with the chief of police in Lincoln that the trans community, as far as like youth, homeless youth, like getting trafficked and things like that, like in our community is like,
Oh my God.
like that is very prevalent and it is not visible.
Yeah.
And so
It's not a thing of the past, and it's not something that's being
it's happening
recognized in
right
the
now.
news. Yeah.
Right. I was like, it's not visible. So we need more. We need
Yeah.
more. That's what it leaves you with is we need to make that more visible. We need more stories.
Yeah.
And we need it to be done in a way that people have access to it.
And the personhood is what makes people care.
Yeah.
Right.
Like hearing
Yeah.
Venus's story specifically and getting a look into these people's lives, like Octavia's life, is what makes people
Humanize.
care. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
humanizing them, even though it's so sad that they have to be humanized and
Like,
they're not
this could be
already.
your brother, your sister, your mother, your
Absolutely.
cousin.
Yeah.
You know, and part of the reasons I really liked this film, I thought it was done very tastefully. It gave the voice to a group of people, but it also didn't try to explain away all the nuances and complexities of people who identify as something other than straight cisgender as well. Because that's not really, you don't have to. You know, if it had been super educational to where it tries to almost like nail down all of those complexities, like you can't do
Right.
that. It's humanity. It's human. You know, you can identify as one of the components of, you know, LGBTQIA and not be the exact same as the next person who identifies as that same letter or whatever you want to say.
Right.
If today Paris is Burning was made, they would probably have sub captions with their pronouns on it, and they would probably have all that, but they didn't do that. And part of me kind of enjoyed that, although I understand the importance of that. Part of me enjoyed that, like, fuck, I am who I am and who I feel, you know, maybe I'm this today and I'm something else tomorrow. Like, that's not for you to say or to, you know, I don't really have to explain that to you. Anything else before we move into ratings? Y'all good? All right. So, like I said, we've come to the time where we need to rate this documentary with an official documentary rating. Each crew member scores the documentary on a scale of 1 to 10 items, with 1 being as horrible as wearing a pair of cheap mopped pumps at a ball, and 10 being fucking legendary. The item changes every week depending on what we're watching, and we chose Vogues. Katy, how many Katy VP? I'm sorry. How many Vogues for you?
It will be 8 Vogues.
8
for
Vogues.
me.
She's voguing in her chair right now. 8 Vogues from VP. Good golly. Miss
7
Molly.
Vogues.
7 Vogues. Katy, thank you for being with us today. Tell us, how many Vogues are you giving?
So many Vogues. 10.
All the
10
Vogues.
Vogue!
Look at all those Vogues.
I like,
Nobody can see you doing that.
it's okay.
You're all missing out.
I know
Yeah.
I know what's happening.
Yep. I gave 8 Vogues. I thought this was very well made, done tastefully from what I could tell from the outside looking in, and I really enjoyed it. So 8 Vogues for me. That means Paris is Burning receives an official documentary rating of 8.25 Vogues. I want to thank you, friends and queens, and who are now in my house. We are all Katy's children.
Oh, yeah.
for joining me for another incredible and fun episode of Talkumentary. I hope you all know that I'd be happy to join any of y'all vicious motherfuckers' houses. Let's talk about next week's episode, Savage. For next week, we will be tackling a documentary called The Central Park Five. This doc dives into the 1989 case of 5 Black and Latino teens who were wrongfully convicted and imprisoned for a crime they did not commit.
This is one of the saddest cases.
Yeah.
He's talking about
Ever
West Memphis
to learn about.
The what?
The
No.
West Memphis tree. Oh,
Nope. This is the Central Park
That's a
Five.
good one, though.
Yeah,
That
I
is a
know.
good
I was like, don't
Paradise
you call me
Lost.
from
There's
here.
a 3-part
That one,
documentary.
I can't do it.
No.
Yeah,
no.
that one. I hope we don't
Oh,
do
I'm
that for
gonna
a long
do it.
time.
There's a 3-part documentary about it.
Perfect. You do it. Katy.
Paradise Lost. It's got awards.
I will cry if we do that one. So
Have any of you seen the Central Park Five?
I haven't seen that.
I don't want to watch it because I'm gonna cry. I don't like it when people are falsely accused. I don't know why
Yeah.
Paradise Lost is different, but it's different.
I haven't seen the specific one that we're watching, but I listen to an abhorrent amount of podcasts. So I know the story
Yeah.
pretty well.
Central Park
Yep.
5 is so sad.
Yeah, this is an excruciating story of a horrible crime in an equally as horrible justice system that completely upended the lives of 5 innocent people. I am ready to get into that one. I think it's going to be a fun one to talk about. Everyone go out and check out the documentary, The Central Park Five, before next week's episode. It can be streamed on Canopy. Join us next week as we subject ourselves to the gross shortcomings of the criminal justice system, one documentary at a time. Go out, rate and review our podcast on your favorite podcast streaming services, and let us know what you think of our show.
We love you, our listeners.
Yes, we do. If you want to connect with our crew, look for @Talkumentary Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or email us at info.talkumentary@gmail.com. Katy, do you have anything that you want to plug or anything? Do you...
Butterfly Bakery at Butterfly Bakery. Instagram.
No, it's okay. I would just say, just keep looking through the bills. The trans community is really struggling right now. Anything we can do to support them, with your vote, with kind words, and with education of others around us, and just kind of treating people how to treat others when they're not quite sure, is what I would say is the most important thing, and to kind of take away from this.
Yep. Slay. Thank you so much.
Can we end this by saying our drag names?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do
attention
it.
community. Your drag name is your first pet and the street you live on.
You currently live?
Well, whatever street name works best for you.
Okay, fair enough.
Because mine
Based
would have
on
been
vibes.
183rd Street and I didn't pick it. So
Yeah.
pick the best one.
All right, so what's yours?
My drag name is BooBoo Academy.
BooBoo Academy. Molly, what you got?
Chloe Maple.
Ooh.
Chloe is my favorite thing because I think that also goes for a stripper name, and Chloe is such a good dancer name.
Yep.
Love it.
Katy, what's your drag name?
Pudding P39.
God, I love that. That's so funny. And I, of course, am CoCo O'Hern.
Just the trope.
I just love that one. Can we be the O'Hern house and you can just adopt
that's
Jeff's name?
fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And Katie will be the mother.
P39 is not as fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, mother of
That's
House
perfect.
O'Hern.
On behalf of DJ, Katy VP, Molly, and our special guest, Katy, and the entire Talkumentary family, I am your host, Jeff Kolaski, and I want to thank you all for listening. In the words of Dorian Corey, you've made a mark on the world if you just get through it, and a few people remember your name. Then you've left a mark. You don't have to bend the whole world. I think it's better to just enjoy it. Pay your dues and just enjoy it. If you shoot an arrow and it goes real high, hooray for you. I hope you keep your minds open and be kind to each other. And
Sashay away.
shay away. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Katy, say bye.
Bye.
Sorry.